Okay, good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. My name is Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us start the Breakfast News with the headlines. Prime Minister Modi to know firsthand the impact of the National Rural Livelihoods Mission to interact with the self-help groups under the key central scheme. Over 5 crore women have been mobilized into 45 lakh self-help groups for sustainable livelihood opportunities. Junking a penal law on adultery will destroy sanctity of marriage, says Centre in Supreme Court. Seeks a dismissal of plea challenging validity of Section 497 of the Indian Penal Code, saying it protects the institution of marriage. Donald Trump shocks NATO allies, asks members to double defense spending commitments, accuses Germany of being a captive of Russia at the Brussels summit. Croatia set up a title clash with France at the Football World Cup, beat England 2-1 in the semi-finals. All European final to be played on Sunday. Heartbreak at Wimbledon. Roger Federer knocked out. Kevin Anderson dethrones defending champion in marathon 4.5 hours match to enter the semi-finals of the men's singles. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will interact with the beneficiaries of the National Rural Livelihoods Mission today. He will be holding a direct samvad with the members of the self-help groups under Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, that is National Rural Livelihoods Mission. He will also interact with the members of self-help groups under the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushalya Yojana and Rural Self-Employment Training Institutes. Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Rural Livelihoods Mission, is one of the flagship programs of the Ministry of Rural Development to alleviate rural poverty. It seeks to mobilize about 9 crore households into SHGs and link them to sustainable livelihood opportunities. The mission has now initiated implementation in 4,884 blocks spread across 600 districts in 29 states and 5 union territories. As of May 2018, more than 5 crore women have been mobilized into 45 lakh self-help groups. In addition, 2.48 lakh village organizations and 20,000 cluster-level federations have also been promoted. The interaction is expected to provide an opportunity to the Prime Minister to get to know directly from the SHG members about the various activities being undertaken by them under NRLM and how it has improved their lives. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the new headquarter building of the Archaeological Survey of India in Delhi today. The ASI's new headquarters has been equipped with state-of-the-art facilities including energy-efficient lighting and rainwater harvesting. It will include a central archaeological library with a collection of about 1.5 lakh books and journals.
यह एक मॉडर्न भवन है जिसमें वाईफाई, जिसमें ब्रॉडबैंड कनेक्टिविटी, जिसमें म्यूजियम, लाइब्रेरी, देश भर के विदेशों के शोधार्थी यहाँ पर आकर आर्कियोलॉजिकल सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया के तहत किए जाने वाले कामों में अपना योगदान देंगे.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a Thanksgiving rally of farmers at Muktasar district of Punjab on Wednesday. He asserted that his government is trying to change the lives of farmers as well as soldiers through various schemes. Union Ministers Harsimrat Kaur Badal and Vijay Sampla and former Punjab Chief Minister Prakash Singh Badal were among those who attended the rally.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday assured that farmers from Punjab and Haryana will benefit from the recent hike in the minimum support price of Kharif crops. Addressing a rally in Malot town in Punjab, Modi said the MSP hike shows that his government is determined to fulfill its promise of doubling the income of farmers by 2022.
जब से सरकार ने एक फैसला लिया है, तब से देश के किसान की एक बहुत बड़ी चिंता दूर हुई है। उसको विश्वास है कि जो निवेश उसने किया है, जो श्रम लगाया है, अब उसको उसका फल मिलने वाला है। लेकिन किसान चैन से सो जाएं, ये कांग्रेस को मंजूर नहीं है और इसलिए कांग्रेस की नींद खराब हो गई है।
While praising the farmers for their contribution, then Prime Minister blamed the Congress for their agricultural problems. He accused the party of using farmers as a vote bank during 70 years of its rule in the country.
कांग्रेस को जरा पूछो तो कि वर्ल्ड बैंक ने जो रिपोर्ट दी है उसमें पंजाब क्यों पिछड़ गया? बादल साहब जहां छोड़ करके गए थे वहां से गिरता ही चला जा रहा है, गिरता ही चला जा रहा है। जरा पंजाब की जनता इनसे भी जरा जवाब मांगे कि आपने इतने कम समय में पंजाब का क्या हाल करके रख दिया।
The Prime Minister also appealed to farmers not to burn crop residues in order to curb air pollution. The Thanksgiving rally was organized by Shiromani Akali Dal and the BJP in the wake of recent price hike of Kharif crops. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
On to some other news. According to the updated World Bank figures for 2017, India has now become world's 6th largest economy, pushing past France. Now, France has been pushed to the 7th spot in the list when compared with the $2.582 trillion for France. India's GDP stood at $2.597 trillion at 2017 end. In 2017, China at 6.8% was ahead of India at 6.7%, giving China the tag of being the fastest growing emerging economies, as has been witnessed for the major parts of the past several years. The US remains the world's largest economy, followed by China, Japan, Germany and Britain. In April this year, the International Monetary Fund projected India to grow at 7.4% in 2018 and 7.8% in 2019, leaving its nearest rival China behind respectively at 6.6% and 6.4% in the 2 years. And the Election Commission has asked the Central Board of Direct Taxes, that is the CBDT, to come up with a uniform format to report the scrutiny of assets and liabilities declared by candidates in their poll affidavits. In a letter to the CBDT chairperson, the Election Commission said that the verification report to check for mismatch should reflect the 5 categories decided by the 2 bodies in 2013. The Election Commission's letter comes after the CBDT cautioned the poll panel against putting in public domain the scrutiny report of assets and liabilities declared by candidates in their poll affidavits. The Election Commission feels that since a verification report is not an investigation report, its disclosure should not be restricted under Section 24 of the RTI Act, which exempts certain organizations from being covered under the information law. Now, based on the response of the CBDT, the Election Commission may decide on whether to put scrutiny reports in the public domain. On to the other top story of the day. The centre has told the Supreme Court that the sanctity of marriage would be weakened if the penal law on adultery is scrapped. The law only punishes a married man for having an extramarital sexual relations with another married woman. Now, this submission was made by the Ministry of Home Affairs in an affidavit to the Apex Court. The centre has also sought dismissal of a plea challenging the validity of Section 497 of the Indian Penal Code on the grounds that it does not make men and women equally liable for the crime of adultery. The centre asserted in court that Section 497 supports, safeguards and protects the institution of marriage. The affidavit said that the Law Commission of India was currently examining the issue and they have identified certain focus areas and have formed subgroups to deliberate on such areas. The top court had referred the PIL challenging the constitutional validity of the adultery law to the Constitution Bench in January this year. The PIL has been filed by one Joseph Shine, an expatriate Indian living in Italy. And the centre has also told the Supreme Court that it would leave it to the wisdom of its judges to decide on the constitutional validity of Section 377 on the issue of criminalising unnatural intercourse between two consenting adults. The Supreme Court has responded, saying that it will restrict itself to whether Section 377 is unconstitutional with regard to consensual sex between two adults. The CJI said that it intends to rule subject to arguments that two consenting adults, even if engaged in unnatural sex, will not be liable for prosecution for any offence. The Apex Court had yesterday commenced the crucial hearing on a number of petitions seeking a decriminalisation of consensual sex between adults of the same gender. The Apex Court, remember, had in 2013 restored a sexual relationship between persons of the same sex as a criminal offence by setting aside the 2009 Delhi High Court judgment that had held it as unconstitutional, the Section 377 of the IPC.
कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बेंच ने बड़े साफ तरीके से ये बात कह दिया है, हम सिर्फ जो धारा 370 आईपीसी है उसको एग्जामिन करेंगे, वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वैलिड है या नहीं है। वो गे के राइट्स को इस स्टेज पे एग्जामिन नहीं करेंगे। उन्होंने बड़ा स्पेसिफिक कह दिया, हम कोई भी एडवांस में ये रूलिंग देने वाले नहीं हैं कि उसमें गे के राइट्स क्या हैं क्या नहीं हैं।
On to some other news now. Members of Parliament have hailed the Rajya Sabha's decision to promote linguistic diversity among its members by allowing them to speak in any of the 22 scheduled languages. MOS Parliamentary Affairs Vijay Goyal applauded the Vice President for ensuring the facility for simultaneous interpretation in 5 more languages of Dogri, Kashmiri, Konkani, Santali and Sindhi. Speaking to Rajya Sabha TV, the minister said that it will help instill confidence among members who can now put forth their views in their mother tongue. Besides, it will also help create awareness among people about the linguistic diversity of our country.
हमारे प्रधानमंत्री हमेशा कहते हैं एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत, कि भाई जो साउथ में है उसको नॉर्थ की भाषा सीखनी चाहिए, उसका खान पान उसको पता होना चाहिए और वे उस भाषा में कम से कम कुछ पंक्तियां जरूर जाने। तो मैं समझता हूं राज्यसभा के अंदर ये एक बहुत ही अच्छा इनिशिएटिव लिया गया है, जिसका श्रेय मैं अपने सभापति वेंकैया नायडू जी को दूंगा कि अब 22 भाषाओं के अंदर कोई भी सांसद अपनी बात को संसद के सदन के अंदर रख सकेगा।
And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has asked the IAS officers to look upon people as active agents of transforming India and not merely as target groups or beneficiaries. He said that unless this approach becomes an integral part of our planning and implementation progress, the government programs will not succeed. Addressing the IAS officers of 2018 batch in New Delhi on Wednesday, the Vice President asked them to make a good use of the opportunity and understand the role of union government in formulation of policies. He also called upon officers to adopt a more responsive and inclusive approach of administration.
These 4 aspects, empathy in my actions, not mere sympathy, efficiency, impartiality and incorruptibility, then you will get a sound sleep. If there are gaps, there is scope to rectify them next day. That is the best way for anybody to come up in life.
In Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay tuned.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Welcome back after the break. And to combat air pollution in 10 most polluted cities, especially in Delhi, Kanpur and Varanasi, the Niti Aayog has proposed a 15-point action plan. The draft action plan, titled Breathe India, includes encouraging electric vehicles, phasing out private diesel vehicles and development of a crop residue utilization policy. The action plan also includes expediting a strategic decommissioning of old and inefficient power plants and the implementation of a large-scale program from 2020 onwards. Now, the freebate is a policy by which inefficient or polluting vehicles incur a surcharge or fee, while efficient ones receive a rebate. According to 2018 WHO database, Kanpur, Faridabad, Gaya, Varanasi, Agra, Gurgaon, Muzaffarpur, Lucknow and Patna are the top most polluted cities in our country. And state-owned BSNL on Wednesday launched India's first internet telephony service called Wings. The service was launched by Communications Minister Manoj Sinha. The service would allow customers to make and receive calls over the internet from anywhere in India or abroad. To use this service, mobile users need to download BSNL's application Wings. After connecting a landline network, no SIM card is required for mobile operations. And the Telecon Commission has approved the new telecom policy and net neutrality recommendations in a meeting on Wednesday. Net neutrality rules bar service providers from discriminating against internet content and services by blocking or granting them higher speed access. Some mission-critical applications or services like remote surgery and autonomous cars will, however, be kept out of the purview of net neutrality framework. The TC also approved the new telecom policy, National Digital Communications Policy 2018. And India and the UK have signed an agreement on exchange of experience by legal professionals and government functionaries for resolution of disputes before various courts and tribunals. The agreement was signed by Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad and UK's Secretary of State for Justice David Gauke in London. The MOU seeks to provide a framework for promoting greater cooperation between judicial and legal professionals through exchange of expertise and training. The two countries would also exchange information regarding current issues of international significance. The MOU also provides for establishment of a joint consultative committee to facilitate such an exchange. And Iran has said that it will do its best to ensure security of oil supply to India. Now, Tehran has asserted that it has been a reliable energy partner for New Delhi. The clarification by Iranian embassy came a day after Iran's deputy ambassador cautioned New Delhi that it will stand to see special privileges if it cuts the imports of Iranian oil following US sanctions. The clarification said that Iran understands the difficulties being faced by New Delhi in dealing with the unstable energy market. It added that it was for India to choose its energy partners, taking into account various factors like geopolitical considerations and the reliability of oil suppliers. The embassy further said that Iran will do its best to ensure security of oil supply to India by offering various flexible measures which will facilitate bilateral trade, particularly Indian exports to Iran. The US has told India and other countries to cut oil imports from the Gulf nations to zero by 4th of November or face sanctions. India is yet to take a call on complying with the US sanctions on Iran. And the OPEC cartel has warned that global trade tensions could have a negative impact on the oil market by pushing down demand for crude. In its monthly report, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries said that buoyant world trade in 2017 and in 2018 had helped impulse economic growth and therefore demand for crude. But it said that this may change further down the line as the US and China fired the latest shots in their escalating trade war. OPEC's latest report comes after the cartel and non-member Russia pledged to boost oil production in a meeting in Vienna last month. And in more international news, US President Donald Trump has asked NATO allies to commit 4% of their GDP to military spending, which is double the current target. Donald Trump made the remarks during the Western Military Alliances Summit in Brussels yesterday. Donald Trump especially singled out Germany for particular criticism as he continued to assail NATO allies for failing to spend 2% of their GDP on defense spending, a target that the NATO allies agreed to meet by 2024. Donald Trump, during a breakfast with the NATO chief, said that Germany was just paying a little bit over 1%, where the US was paying 4.2% of a much larger GDP. Donald Trump has long complained that NATO members are not meeting their fiscal obligations to the alliance.
Well, I will focus on what we have agreed, and we have agreed to be committed to the pledge increasing defense spending to 2%. And let's start with that. So we have a way to go, but the good news is that we have really started to deliver. I think that if you go back to 2014 and ask leaders, commentators, whether European allies would make that much progress we have seen from 2014 up till today, I think many people would have doubted that.
And now let's get you all the action from the Football World Cup in Russia. All right, so Croatia will take on France in the World Cup final after they beat England 2-1 in the extra time in the semi-final that was played in Moscow on Thursday. England enjoyed a lot of possession in the early exchanges, but they stunned Croatia with a goal inside 5 minutes, with Tripper netting his first international goal that had seemingly set England on course to reach their first final since they lifted the trophy on home soil back in 1966. But England went into the break ahead and Croatia came roaring back in the second half and equalized through Ivan Perisic. And with the score at 1-1, the game went into the extra time, where it was Mario Mandzukic who scored the winning goal. The Juventus forward netted it in the 109th minute to complete a remarkable comeback from the Croatian team, and it took the small nation of little more than 4 million people into the World Cup final for the first time in their short history. Meanwhile, fan zones in Moscow and elsewhere were rocking on Wednesday night as thousands of Croatian supporters celebrated their team's victory. England supporters were ecstatic after 5 minutes when Tripper scored from a free kick to give Gareth Southgate's team the lead. However, as the game progressed, Croatia took control and their fans were the ones celebrating come the final whistle. So the World Cup final is set. It will be France versus Croatia meeting for the 21st World Cup Championship. The match was set on Wednesday as Croatia outlasted England in extra time at the Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow, the venue for the title game as well. France was a favourite before the tournament and it never looked like it was in too much trouble during the tournament as well. The French topped Belgium 1-0 in their semi-final match on Tuesday to advance to the final and have a shot at winning their second World Cup final that they took the title in 1998. Croatia, however, have never won the World Cup at all, but they will finally get a shot on Sunday. The resilient Croatia won't be easy out for the French team. Croatia looked fantastic during the group stage, but the knockout round has been an unprecedented grind, with the opponents taking them to the extra time in all the 3 games. Now, this is the third all-European final in the past 4 World Cups. Meanwhile, for England, it will be the third or fourth sideshow against Belgium on Saturday. All right, we have with us Julian Berretta, a former national football player, joining us in the studio this morning. A very good morning, Ms. Berretta. So Croatia making history and adding to England's long wait for that coveted cup.
Yes, Croatia, definitely the side that, fought harder yesterday. I think they deserved to win yesterday after their performance. They just didn't give up. We all thought that Croatia would be the more tired team heading into yesterday's match because they were coming off 2 extra time winning games. But, when it went into extra time, Croatia were the ones who found an extra lung almost, and England just got complacent.
So I think we must compliment Croatia for its perseverance, prevailing in the 3rd consecutive match in which, they fell behind and then could not settle things in the regulation time. We saw the similar thing against Denmark and Russia, which was also decided on penalty kicks. Would they be tired for the final?
It doesn't look like. I mean, after yesterday's game, they looked like a very, very fit team. The way they fought yesterday was, it was mind-blowing. And to see England, who we know is a young team, a very fit team, to actually get beaten on fitness in extra time by Croatia was fascinating to watch. Croatia, first time in the World Cup finals. It's a huge occasion for them. I'm sure they're going to be ready for it. But they're going to have a very, very tough opponent in France.
And, yesterday's result also means that Croatia has become the smallest country since Uruguay in 1950 to advance to the World Cup final. What an achievement for this small nation.
Huge achievement, and such a huge thing for these players who have made history. They have a really, really talented bunch of players in this team. Sometimes I feel a bit underrated, but they're all playing in top clubs in Europe. And yesterday they proved that, they are a very, very talented bunch of players.
And what about the final? Because, in 1998, the Croatians had advanced to the semi-finals, which was their first appearance as an independent nation. But they lost to France again, the host nation, and again they're up against each other. So how do you look at the final?
Very tricky encounter. The Croatians showed us a lot of experience yesterday. They're an experienced side. They've played a lot of football together. But France, a young team, very vibrant. It's going to come down to the wire, I think. But I really can't take a pick on this one.
Of course, France are one of the favourites as they entered the tournament as well. And I'm sure on Sunday they'll also remain the favourites. But can Croatia do an upset and win the World Cup? We have to wait and watch till Sunday to see what happens. Thank you so much, Ms. Berretta, for joining us this morning on that story. And there was a heartbreak at Wimbledon as Roger Federer was knocked out in the quarterfinals. In another match, Rafael Nadal prevailed, but not without a fight. On an eventful day 9 of the championships, Roger Federer suffered a shocking defeat when world number 8 seed Kevin Anderson beat top-seeded 2-6, 6-7, 7-5, 6-4, 13-11 to advance to the semi-finals at the All England Club in London. Roger Federer was serving for the match in the 3rd set, but he failed to close it out, giving the South African Anderson the chance that he needed to dethrone the defending champion in a match that lasted nearly 4.5 hours. Meanwhile, world number 2 Rafael Nadal faced a difficult road to the semi-final spot, taking almost 5 hours to beat Juan Martín del Potro, eventually prevailing 7-5, 6-7, 4-6, 6-4, 6-4. Nadal's win sets up a blockbuster semi-final with Novak Djokovic. Djokovic beat Japan's Kei Nishikori 6-3, 3-6, 6-2, 6-2. Meanwhile, American John Isner reached his first Grand Slam semi-final as he beat Canadian Milos Raonic 6-7, 7-6, 6-4, 6-3. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks for watching.